Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I am Krista Gano, and I am joined today by Jason Rudofsky and Michael Collins. Sarah is on an airplane, I hope coming back from something fun. So you've got the three of us today. And as we were talking, as you all know we do, I had come across this post on TikTok this morning because apparently it's where I live. And it was about the hidden costs of being what is called a high functioning neurodiverse person. So whether that is, I think that goes across the board, everything from dyslexia to autism, everything in between, but you're considered level 1, meaning that you don't need what the world would consider to be outside supports. And part of why that is the case is because we've learned to mask through it, or, whatever it takes for us to get through the day. We've figured out our own workarounds, all of those things. And I think, the two pieces of the post that I thought that I really resonated with was, one is that, remember, when you are a high functioning, she said, when you're a high functioning neurodiverse person, you are functioning highly for everyone else's comfort, not for your own. So you are functioning highly to do things the way that the outside world wants them done. But to us, we're bending and shifting and doing things so differently so that we could come up to that standard. And then that goes to the second part of it is what does it really cost us? It's sort of like the kid who goes to school, and we were all this kid because we're all neurodiverse, who went to school and you kept it together all day long. And there was a cute little thing I saw with this little kid, and she says, "Are you going to be a good boy at school?" And he was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Are you going to be a good boy when you come home?" And he was like, "Nope." And it was this just awareness that by the time he came home, he had to let it all out, right? So what are the hidden costs? What are we doing to try to fit in, and what does it do as a paradigm shift to realize that your level 1 support functioning is actually about making everybody else comfortable, not you, and making everyone else around you efficient, not necessarily you. And then what does it cost you when you come home? And there's a lot of research that is starting to be done now about the levels of chronic illness that we have from hiding who we are, the levels of anxiety. Michael, you talk about comorbidities. So the comorbidities of anxiety, OCD, all of these things are those true natures of comorbidities for us, or is it displacement of the cost of what it's been taking us to silently move through the world in a way that isn't built for us? Did I explain that well enough?
Yeah,
you did. But when you
so.
talk about the cost of something, I immediately go to time and the cost and the waste of time. For me personally, that's like, it's like you're losing money. Like when you're wasting time, I feel like you're losing money. And part of it is not being prepared, thinking you're prepared, but not really finding, getting into situations where if you had done some research prior, you wouldn't have wasted so much time because you would know the directions you were supposed to do. And so for me, it's like time, like I'm costing and wasting time in my life as someone who has ADHD.
But this is
and
part
whose
of
brain works like that.
When I bring up the grief that I have sometimes around this, that time period that time piece is such a big part of that, Jason, because I recognize looking back that I could have used support. I didn't know I needed it. I didn't know how to ask for it. And in the lack of that support, and what comes out of that is there's also a new thing I read. Gosh, I've got to figure out where I find these things. That there's a there was this woman who said, here are the top things of like late diagnosed ADHD that you may not even know about. And one of them was, everyone thinks your career should be further along than it is, because
Yeah.
because we're not functioning the way we're supposed to function. So we're wasting time, and we know we're capable of more. We know we're smart enough to do it. We know we have the work ethic. We know all of these things, but we have been sold this idea that we should not be asking for support. We should not, we haven't learned to work with our brains, and it's been a loss of time, in my opinion, for me. And that's one of my spaces of grief I have.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think
100%.
that is, yeah, because when I when I Googled cost of high functioning nerve, it all came up with like families needing to spend extra money for support on their kids. Well, we didn't know that that was a thing,
Yeah.
right? So we're getting through, as you guys have just stated, getting through the best we can. And for me, yeah, there is grief. I mean, it's of the time, that is the cost. It's like being further along, like in our minds, wasting time. When before I got my diagnosis, it was really, I can see where in my life I was making choices by, you know, impulsivity and novelty. And in my mind, I was like, I'm seizing the day. I'm pursuing my dreams. Like, look at all these things I'm interested in. I'm taking life by, all that. And then what happens, as a result is how far do you really get ahead at any one thing? I mean, I just got my real estate license. I'm 56, so it's like there's another thing that I'm trying. Even though I've been doing, involved in real estate and property management for like 15 years, I formally got a license, and now it's just like, okay, now I guess I'm doing this now, and what? And then it's really hard to not do that comparison thing. Like a lot of my friends, they're kind of starting to get to that point where they're setting themselves up for retirement. And I'm like, I don't think that's ever going to happen for me. So that's the cost, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about this before. It's like I've been such a slasher in my career, like because I am. Here's the upside: I am good at lots of things. I am interested in lots of things. The bad side of that is that because I need that variety and because my brain needs to be chewing on more than one problem at the same time and all of that stuff, I can't, in this world, in this social media world, where sort of everyone wants you to niche down and there's not, and that you're sort of like, the jack of all trades, master of none does
Yeah.
not work.
Yeah. Do
You've
one
got
thing
to,
and do it well.
yeah, make the rivet and make the rivet well. And I'm struggling now, and I've seen the struggle happen post COVID, where really we went, I think, heavily into influencer culture more so than before. And it's an interesting thing because, and I just look and I'm like, I don't know how to niche down because I don't know how to compartmentalize my brain like that. But I also think the costs, and then Jason, I want you to add in, I also think the costs are things like anxiety, not being able to be truly present with our families because by the time we get home, we're exhausted. One of the things about being neurodiverse is that you actually do need a lot of time alone or just recuperating or just in quiet and I think it expands as we get older, that need. And so the costs of that when we have busy families, it's just you never get to take that time. And so by the time you're in your 50s, it's literally like all you want to do. Like, I think this idea of neurodivergent burnout is a cost as well as of us not knowing how to regulate for many, 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 many years. Jason. Jason's just nodding, everybody.
Well, it's I mean, I think about it a lot. I think about what I've had to do to make myself comfortable and the costs associated with that. Michael, you talk about impulsivity and making decisions based on maybe convenience, maybe less work to be done to get to a certain point. I just, for me, looking back, I put in some work, but like you were saying, Krista, there were so many other things going on. I'd put in a little work here, a little work here, work here, work here, work here, but really also couldn't develop sort of a career path for myself. I could have done a lot of different things. I still can. We all can. But very honestly, I found myself in a family restaurant business for 30 years. And as the years went on, I thought to myself, man, the time wasted and what you could have done 10 years ago and set yourself up, Michael, like you were saying, like really, but I'm just not that type. I was just not that type of person.
But Jason, and I'm pushing back on behalf of you and on behalf of all of us right now, that what kind of world, like what a bummer to live in a world that the reason why my gifts are not more highly chosen, used, respected are because I honestly cannot sit in an office. I cannot have weirdo freaking meetings. They make me want to like bludgeon myself. I cannot do some of these things. So that does not mean that, I mean, that's why as a consultant, I will go in sometimes and I can turn a business around really quickly, but I'm not going to stay there because that's just not where I got to move. I got to get out of there. And I do not want to be with weird silent white noise machine in the office with the cubicles. Like the idea of it makes me, I'm like literally my chest just got tight just like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say quickly, at the restaurant, I didn't recognize it, but towards the end of it, the ringing of the phone.
Oh,
the ringing of the phone at the restaurant,
which rang, Jason.
It rang and rang and rang and rang and rang, and I would hear it, and I would hear it, and then it would ring, and I'd just be so almost angry that someone was calling. And when I left the restaurant and I didn't hear that ringing daily, it was as joyous.
Jason, did you see that thing that
But then I've been into other restaurants where then all of a sudden I hear that phone ring in the restaurant.
It's like trauma, PTSD.
Trauma.
No, but did you see that thing I sent the group thread that was saying that misophonia, that if you have some of that misophonia stuff, that is actually a sign that you're highly creative?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's over the last 10, 15 years, I've recognized more of what noises, and I'm hearing everything.
But
I feel like one of those, like a bird dog or something.
What a bummer, though, that we are just now looking around and going like, because sometimes I feel like, I think, as humans, one of the things that we hope to have happen when we're at the end, when we're shuffling off this mortal coil, is that we feel like that this life was well spent, that we were well spent, that we gave as much as we could, that we taught as much as we could, that we provided as much as we could, that we got as much as we could, that we, that we are wrung out, that we are spent. That is one of the joys, I think, of being able to live to an old age, right? And I do not feel like I'm anywhere near spent because I feel like I've not been able to utilize my gifts because I've been trying to fit into a system that was not right for me.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, it's like the whole career path for me has been, I mean, I was thinking about interviews that I had when I was in Chicago, going through, the Second City and Improv and doing my creative pursuits, but like obviously you need to pay the rent. So I was working at this staffing company in the Loop, and I was a trainer for people that needed to learn Microsoft Office, Word and Excel and all that, and I would train on that, and then they would go off to their respective. And I actually liked temping because I could go look at these different environments. I didn't have to, stay in any one thing. And I remember I was like, I would always have this battle with like, well, what's the responsible thing to do? I need to get a different type of job or a better. And I had this interview with Anderson Consulting, and it was such like in the interview, it was like, talk about masking. I was trying to fit this mold that they wanted to see.
Like answering the questions in a proper way,
Yeah,
almost.
and you had to, and it was very kind of narrative driven interview format where you're like, tell me about a time when you had some, when you failed at something, or you faced this thing and and you had a challenge, and what did you do to overcome the thing? And I'm just pulling shit out of my ass, just trying to like what do they want to hear? And and I think I resonate so much with like what Krista's saying as far as going in and in a consulting basis and saying like this, I enjoy this environment to this extent, but I could not be here. And then Jason, this it's such a like what a metaphor, or what a like you literally cut the cord from the phone. Like that was a tether. Like the phone cord was a tether to that place, and you cut it and you were free. And I
Even when
think
my
like
phone rings, when my phone rings, I keep it on silent nearly all the time because even the ringing of just any phone drives me
yeah,
crazy.
it's so it's like what is that thing about because I resonate with this very very deeply as far as like it almost feels like if you look at like okay, I'm going to spend the next 10 years here, 15 years here, it feels like you're wasting your life. It's
Hmm.
like I'd be wasting my life if I did that. But but like you're still having this life experience. It's very much a mindset, but like what is it about the neurodivergent brain where it's just like if you're not if it's not always kind of experiencing maybe some newness or something that's um like
Well,
novel or creative or
but I think part of, at least for me, that part of my gifting is in seeing patterns and being able to cut through some of the BS with some kindness, right? So when I go into a business and I work with them as a consultant and I work with communication skills, I think part of the reason why I'm successful in that is because I can say the hard things and then I can leave, and I can say the hard things for the betterment of that ecosystem so that they can get past something or move through it. And part of that is that pattern recognition. And, if you're in it, the pattern recognition turns into sucking of life force out of your body, right?
interesting.
But as a consultant, it turns into something where you're like, I can come in and I can help you heal that thing. And then I can move on. But yeah, because if you're in it, then you're not there to heal the thing. You're there to be a part of the thing. And then the masking
Mhm.
hits and all the other stuff hits and your life force gets sucked out of you because, Patty wants to have the birthday party in the break room and you just have hit a hyper focus and want to tell everybody to screw off. Like, I don't want to work with a bunch of other people. I mean, I love that. I mean, I do love it for like for certain like projects, like project based, but I don't, the idea of being in an office with a bunch of, people over years and years and years, that is highly, highly stressful for me.
Well, and I think when you look at the types of jobs people have, I mean, the classic thing. I mean, Jason, you were in the restaurant industry. I mean, even though you're like, God, I was there for 30 years. I mean, there are a lot of chefs with ADHD. There are a lot of
Oh, I'm
lawyers. There are a lot
sure.
of
Oh,
Oh
doctors.
my
There are a
gosh,
lot of
I'm sure it serves
oh.
I'm sure it serves the ADHD, like, because you are thinking 5 steps ahead, plus this is coming in, that's coming in, I've got this. I mean, talk about a wonderful brain massage in some
And it's
way
never you're working on a different puzzle every day.
all
It's
the
not the
time.
same puzzle. You see a
Yeah.
lot of the same pieces, but the puzzle every day is different. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Even
that's why I
even
liked working
now,
in HR.
I mean now at the golf course,
Yeah.
it's not it's I'm on a golf course, but the pieces of the puzzle are different every single day. Nothing's ever the same, which is
And you get to be
exciting.
physical. And they're both of them are physical.
There's yes, it's physical. I can be creative. I'm not tied to whatever system is telling me this is the way
Yeah.
we do it. I have leeway and ability, and I can create still
Yeah.
for the betterment of the course.
So this
And
says
that gives me a lot of that freedom gives me
But
happiness as
think about
well.
how, and I don't know about you guys, but think about how we were like driven. Like you go to college, you do this, you get the job, you do the thing, and that maybe that's less in sort of Gen Z, Gen Alpha now. But for us, it was like my mother was like there was like I remember because I wanted to get a degree in theater. Sorry, mom, if you're listening to this, I wanted to get my degree in theater, and she was like, I won't pay for you to have a degree in theater because nobody ever does anything in theater. And so I ended up getting my degree in sign language interpreting, which I have, and unfortunately not raised my hand since graduation because I have what? Worked in performing arts my entire career. So some of you should just listen to me and let me like do the thing that I was doing. But I do have a double degree because I spent so much time in the theater. I ended up with one accidentally. So anyway, but I think that you think about how we're like I'm having to fight this inner demon in my head when I'm talking to my kids and saying, if you do not have to go to college if you are unless the thing you want to do needs a college degree.
That's what we tell the same thing.
But we were not taught that. And I mean, like and it's sort of like bucking this internal, like generational system, it feels
Well,
like
then you
to
graduate,
break
and then
out of it.
they'd list everyone's college, where they went, where they're going. Everyone's going to this college, this college, this college. Like it was just the norm. Like that's the next step.
just
Yeah.
a
And
safe place to spend time before you. It's like that
well, but
halfway house before
we were
independence.
making the suggestion to I mean, the oldest is academic, loves it, belongs there. The youngest, not so sure. And so, but we're hoping that there can be some sort of entrepreneurship, like AA, like an associate's degree entrepreneurship situation, just so that because I think he'll be an entrepreneur, and
Well,
just
listen to
so he
this,
is set
Krista.
up for that.
So with the you know how I love looking at some data.
Yes, we do love that.
Studies indicating that around 25 to over 70% of business owners report being neurodivergent or having a mental health condition such as ADHD, dyslexia, or autism, while roughly 15 to 20% of the general population is neurodivergent. So like look at the percentage of people that are entrepreneur. They it's like my dad, I look at him, it's like it was painful for him to fit into someone's construct.
Yeah,
He
same with
had
my
to,
dad, who's an entrepreneur.
okay. So it's like, okay, I have to kind of do things my way in my time with my systems. I cannot fit into this thing and operate like I look at my wife and how she operates as a consultant in these companies, but she's able to go in and speak that language and
Yeah.
synthesize all the stuff, and it's just remarkable to me. I was like, how are you able to navigate like that? So I think like this whole thing about the cost, unfortunately, like Krista, you've been saying, like, it's a bummer, these things. And I think unfortunately we do spend time beating ourselves up because we do spend so much time and effort trying to fit into a thing, and it's just not the right fit, and it doesn't feel great. And
We'd save a lot of time if we didn't beat ourselves up. If I didn't
it
beat
would
myself
save
up,
us.
I'd probably save probably 2 years. I
Oh,
could I
absolutely,
could I could go back 2 years. Well, beating
easily.
myself up and just not because of my impatience and my inability to read directions, I waste just loads of time going back, missing a screw here, should have done that, should have looked at the directions, and then I beat myself up because I'm like, why didn't you read the directions? You thought you knew how you could get through this, and that's where I beat myself up. If I took the time, but I'm impatient. And you know what? I'm getting to a point where I'm like this, I'm okay with it. I can't
So
deal with
that's
it.
the
I
one
walk
benefit
into a
of
thing, I see a
being
line of
older.
people, I'm like this, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not like all of a sudden like, oh God, what am I going to do? I can't pick this up. I just think to myself, you know what? I'm not dealing with that line. I don't want to get anywhere near that situation. I don't care if I'm wasting time.
Me
Like I
and my
should do this today.
ADHD kiddo did that yesterday with Dairy Queen because it was free cone day. And he was like, let's go get a free cone. And we drove past Dairy Queen and it was a madhouse. And I was like, nothing is worth that.
Exactly. The stress
No,
that's
That
going to put
ain't
on my
free.
body.
my
That ain't
daughter, my daughter, who's a lot like
Right,
me,
exactly.
kind of anxious, a little. Anyway, she said, I called her the other day. She was at a Trader Joe's. She's like, I don't understand why it's so busy. There's so many people everywhere. Apparently, they
All
were
the
giving
time.
away handbags, like
Oh,
Trader Joe's
it was like the
handbags,
spring handbag day.
spring handbag thing. She's like, I'm in this line and I'm like, you may not even get a bag and you're in this line that wraps around the place. What's the big deal? Like,
Trader Joe's, it's
I
like
was like, you
everybody
don't need that bag, really. You don't
they
need it.
shop in there like it's Armageddon. Like you have 10 minutes to get everything you're going to need for the rest of the month. And you feel such pressure when you're in there. I like to kind of browse and look at
There is
ingredients,
always a
and
pressure in Trader Joe's. I feel so much
there's
pressure.
someone over your
Starts
shoulder.
in
You're
the
like, I
parking
can't.
lot.
It starts in the parking
Totally.
lot. It
They're
starts
always so
outside of the
small.
parking lot on the street with people trying to get into the parking lot.
We have a joke.
So crazy.
There's this spot. Actually, it's now a restaurant, but it was open for years, and it used to be one of the smaller Whole Foods. You know what I'm saying? The small Whole Foods, and they
Yeah.
went out a long time ago.
Wild
It's
oats.
been open for
Wild oats.
years. It's been open for years, not no one's been in there for years. And I used to say it would be the perfect location because it's that right store size for Trader Joe's. But I used to always joke that there's no way they'd choose it because the parking lot was too good.
Yeah.
Had a
Yeah.
great
Right,
parking
right.
lot.
It was too
I was
convenient.
like,
It was
they
too
would
convenient.
they would never go there. The parking lot's too good.
No, whether it's LA or Denver, I mean, that's like this universal truth. It's so bizarre. Like it's a stressful thing right when you turn into the parking lot.
And
So
that's and consequently I go to if I'm going to do any of that sort of shopping, Costco, Sam's Club, any of that, I want to be there right when they open.
oh yes.
And
We
Costco,
should
I
have used that
stop.
for the hacks one that
I
we
won't
just
go to
put out.
Costco.
Yeah,
How do
really.
you not open your doors before 7? How do you open your doors at 10 o'clock? Even for business members. How are people, why would you even shop there?
That's post COVID. Before
They had 10
COVID,
o'clock before COVID.
Costco. No, before COVID, I remember if you were a business member, you could get
8
in at like
o'clock.
8
Yeah.
or 9. But still, like I know I would like 10. What?
And then there's a line of people waiting to get in at 10 o'clock. No thanks.
So, well, we only have a few minutes left on this one, and I wanted thank you for like you guys for listening or for exploring this with me because I don't even know if I know full well the answers. I mean, I think that I'm still trying to sort of like sort out how to regulate my nervous system in ways where I don't allow the burnout to happen and the cost of that stuff to happen. I'm still trying to. I've always thought that I was pretty self-aware, and now I'm really realizing that I'm not at all self-aware, and there's a cost to that. There's a cost to my directness, and trying to sort of find out or figure out where I want to, or and I just had this week, where I'm called to mitigate my directness or to mitigate my intenseness, as some people put it, and where I just don't give a fuck. And because I do think that's valid, that we live in a world that is so everyone is so scared to hurt everybody's feelings that sometimes there was that great thing about the difference. Simon Sinek did it on his page, the difference between being kind and nice. And we live in a really nice world, and I don't think it's always kind. And I think that accepting directness at certain points is the kindest thing that you could do.
Yeah.
Offering it and accepting it. And so I feel
Yeah,
like
the tiptoeing around things.
the tiptoeing is BS. So I'm just still trying to really figure out, even though I can always see it with other people with such clarity, with myself, I'm still really trying to figure out what the cost of this has been and how to mitigate it moving forward.
I think for me, yeah, I'm trying to look back and say that, that doesn't necessarily define me. Try to be gentle with yourself. And I think, some sort of gratitude practice, like look at all the different things that I was able to explore and expose myself to that I normally wouldn't have if I would have just like from day one gotten into one thing and stayed with it all the way. I've gotten to explore lots of wonderful things. And so I think there's some sort of gratitude practice around it. This little meditative thing that I saw this morning that was like, as we're rushing through life, it's like every time you look at a clock, smile and just be grateful that you're alive. That just those little things, though, I think, because when you start ruminating and getting into that like regret or that can be toxic. That's a slippery slope,
I mean, what about all the cliches? You can't dwell on the past.
Right.
I mean, there's so many of them. And the truth is, it's over with. We were, I mean, just quickly, something happened and it made me really upset at work, which doesn't really happen, but it kind of made me upset. And, I lost it and it stayed with me the next day. And we kind of started talking about it. And I said, you know what? It makes no difference. It's over with. It happened. We are simply riling ourselves up about the incident. It's over. No one got hurt. It happened yesterday. And it hasn't affected anything. The only thing it has affected is our emotions. And the truth is, we don't need to carry that with us. So I told him, I said, you know what? There's no even reason to discuss it. Let's move on. Let's do something else. It's over with. There's nothing we can do about it. That's where we ruminate and you hold on to things. That's where you're wasting time and you're wasting.
That's a cost. Yeah.
That's a cost.
It is a
huge
cost. That rumination for sure. And I would just, and as I'll take us out on that, and just say, I think one of the things that I keep resonating with right now, though, is that when we're masking, when we're trying to work within other systems, when we're not asking support, maybe because we don't even recognize we need it or how we need it anymore, because we've been working within the system for as long as we have, that we are not doing that for the betterment of us. We're doing that for the comfortability of others, and there's a valid reason for that. Like, we don't want to go through and be bulls in china shops, wherever we go. But I do think that there is also something valid to say, I get to come first sometimes. I get to come first in how I'm going to.
And it's hard to do that. It's hard sometimes.
And isn't it ever? And it's hard to recognize it, and it's hard. But I do think that I heard someone in a protest say, and this is very different but she just said, your uncomfortability is not more important than my right to whatever it was that she was talking about. And that's a very strong statement, but I do think sometimes it's like, I'm working so hard. I'm working 3 times as hard to make everybody else comfortable with my presence than I am in doing the task I was tasked with. And that's not good for anybody necessarily. So I do think that there's something
how
to be
you're
said.
viewed and like, are people watching me? Am I doing it the right way? I want to make sure that everything's good here. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, or like I need help, or I've had trouble.
But the more that we can recognize that because all we can do is control ourselves, right? So the more that we can recognize that we're doing that for the comfortability of others, and maybe have some courage to step out of that and say, hey, I need some support in this way, so that we can help the group help us. Because in my experience, nobody is like, whatever. Of course, people, like, we like to collaborate, we like to help, we like to work with people, but people can't be expected to know how to help unless you teach them how. So it does take some effort from us.
And then we don't like the way they do it. You're like, oh. You know what I mean? Like, let's collaborate, and then you're like this, but we're going to do it this way. I know.
That's next week's episode.
And on that note, thank you all so much for joining us for this week. This is How My Brain Works. And we hope that we said something that was thought-provoking or normalizing for you this week. Please, if you found this to be helpful, share it with someone else, like, subscribe, do all the things. If you're seeing this on social media, pass it along, all the stuff. So for Jason and myself and Michael and Sarah, who I know would say yes, she wants this to be from her as well. We thank you for listening to us every week. See you next time.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.